Every day, invisible intelligence shapes what you buy, who you trust, and even what you believe. First, mean intelligence in the simple sense. Anything that learns from you and then nudges your choices, people, algorithms, and systems that pick what appears in front of you. In this video, first we'll show how those smart systems act like a polite puppeteer. No strings, just patterns, rewards, and a few clever tricks that get you to do things without thinking. You'll see real examples, from feeds that keep you scrolling to advice that feels friendly but steers you, explained in plain language and with a little humor, because yes, your phone is trying to outwit your willpower and probably losing to your cat. Watch to learn 3 clear ways intelligence controls behavior, how to spot the nudges in your daily life, and quick moves you can use to take back control. No tech degree required. By the end, you'll recognize the tactics, stop doing what they want on autopilot, and start using the same ideas to make smarter choices. 1. Understanding and power. Knowing how things work changes what people can do. When someone collects patterns about behavior, preferences, or performance, they turn scattered facts into tools. Data becomes a lever. It highlights who pays attention, who buys, who needs help, and who gets ignored. Systems that track clicks, sales, or health signals do more than report. They shape choices by deciding what gets seen next. That shift from raw observation to active shaping is the core of how understanding becomes power. Companies and institutions show this every day. Recommendation engines push certain products or stories higher up, so more people click on them. The engine doesn't just describe taste, it nudges it. Managers who monitor workflow and outcomes can redirect team effort by changing priorities or incentives. Doctors with a clear view of a patient's history adjust treatment faster and more precisely, which improves outcomes. These are practical, ordinary examples where better knowledge leads directly to influence. Control also grows when interpretation concentrates. A few people or systems that translate data into meaning set the narrative. Algorithms summarize vast logs into simple signals, and those signals guide hiring, lending, or content moderation. They filter complexity into actionable decisions, and those decisions change real lives. Problems show up when those filters act without explanation. They hide trade-offs, overlook context, or favor the loudest signals. Instead of saying the system is opaque, it's more useful to say the system hides how it ranks and rewards, so decisions happen with little chance for correction. Balancing understanding and power means changing how we act with information. Share summaries, explain choices, and invite review. Do not guard insight as a secret lever. Design checks that let people question automated choices and create simple audits that show why a decision landed where it did. That approach reduces surprises and makes influence visible rather than mysterious. A little transparency, a pinch of accountability, and the occasional good-humored explanation go a long way toward making knowledge serve everyone, not just whoever holds the knobs. 2. The desire for predictability. Predictability lowers mental effort and makes planning possible. People and systems do things that turn unknowns into likely outcomes, so decisions become easier and coordination actually works. A simple household thermostat is a clear example. It measures temperature, compares it to a goal, and switches heating on or off to keep things steady. Short sentence. That tiny loop, measure, compare, act, is at the heart of many intelligence-driven controls. Algorithms in everyday apps do the same kind of work, though a larger scale. Recommendation engines predict what someone might like next, and then nudge choices toward those items, which shapes viewing and buying patterns on streaming and shopping platforms. Supply chains use demand forecasts to decide how much inventory to hold, so stores do not run out and warehouses do not sit on excess goods. Checklists in aviation and medicine turn complex tasks into repeatable, predictable steps, and those steps reduce mistakes without replacing human judgment. Think of checklists as safety nets rather than cages. They make life predictable in useful ways. There are trade-offs, of course. Overdependence on prediction makes systems fragile when reality changes in unexpected ways, and rigid rules can crowd out creativity and local judgment. Recommendation systems that keep showing the same kinds of content reinforce existing tastes and can create narrow feedback loops. Forecasts that ignore rare shocks leave supply chains exposed to surprises. Organizations do standardization to control outcomes, but they then risk being slow to adapt when conditions flip. Predictability is helpful until it becomes a charming tyrant. Practical balance looks like mixing steady routines with deliberate flexibility. Scenario exercises and stress tests force planners to imagine bad surprises and prepare fallbacks. Combining simple rules, like a minimum safety stock, with human oversight keeps operations reliable and able to pivot. A/B testing and small pilot rollouts let people try changes without committing everything at once. Finally, maintaining diverse data sources and alternate models reduces the chance that a single wrong assumption controls everything. A little redundancy, a dash of randomness, and some common sense backups help predictability serve control, without turning control into a straitjacket. 3. When control is more important than results. Lots of organizations set up rules, forms, and checkpoints because they want predictability and to reduce risk. Control narrows the space where surprises can hide. Control can look like mandatory approvals, rigid checklists, scripted customer replies, or layers of sign-offs before a decision moves forward. These things do work for their intended purpose. They catch mistakes, ensure compliance, and create standard behavior. But they become a problem when they become the point rather than the means. In aviation and medicine, for example, checklists save lives when used to guard against human error. The trouble begins when the checklist turns into the whole job and people stop thinking for themselves. You can spot the shift when process starts trumping outcome. First, require 3 signatures before a vendor gets paid. First, log every small change into a central tracker. First, insist that frontline staff recite a script exactly as written. Those are choices that put control first. A customer service team that follows a script to the letter might avoid complaint about deviations, yet still lose customers who wanted their problem solved. A development team that stamps everything against an old plan delivers on spec, but misses market signals. Those are not accusations. They're descriptions of common behaviors that prioritize compliance over customer value. The consequences are predictable and practical. People waste time filling forms that gather dust, skilled workers stop making discretionary judgments, and leaders get reports that look clean but hide real issues. Teams begin to game the system. First hit my call quota, but first don't close deals. First fill out the required fields, but first don't fix the underlying issue. Creativity shrinks because every experiment needs permission, and speed collapses under the weight of repeated approvals. The organization becomes comfortable with appearances instead of performance. You can nudge back toward outcomes without throwing away all controls. Start by asking what you're trying to protect, then choose the smallest, clearest control that achieves that aim. First, set measurable outcomes, customer satisfaction, issue resolution, feature adoption, and allow reasonable discretion in how teams meet them. First, limit approvals to exceptions, not routine moves, and first create lightweight guardrails like thresholds or short check-ins instead of full reviews. Try pilots that give a team autonomy for a short sprint and measure the results. If they do well, expand that freedom. Reward people for fixing problems, not for perfect paperwork. A little trust plus clear measurement is usually more effective than a mountain of rules, and it makes work less dull, which, frankly, is good for everyone. 4. Loss of spontaneity. People adjust their moves around suggestions and monitoring, and that quietly eats away at surprise. Spontaneity is simply the ability to act without a script, to say a silly thing, take a different route home, or pick a song because the mood hit. When choices are shoved into predictable lanes by recommendations, nudges, or surveillance, those off-the-cuff moments shrink. This happens in obvious ways, like always choosing the top video on a feed because it's easiest, and in subtle ways, like pausing before a half-joke because someone could screenshot it later. At work, the effect shows up plainly. When software logs keystrokes and flags inactive time, People stop wandering to a colleague's desk for a quick brainstorm. First, to avoid saying the half-formed idea that could sound bad, because the record might be read back later. Meetings become checklists and not experiments. In classrooms and creative groups, the same pattern emerges, a chilling effect, where people self-edit to avoid risk and creativity drops because fewer odd, useful ideas get voiced. For example, teams that stick strictly to performance metrics often miss the playful detours that lead to big breakthroughs. Daily life offers lots of tiny examples too. Streaming services make the next show autoplay, so first do watch one more, even when a random choice might have felt more fun. Parents who track every step of a child's screen time sometimes replace playful exploration with curated, safe selections, and a child misses inventing games. Dating apps nudge towards safe replies, which shrinks the weird, interesting opening lines that could spark something memorable. These are all practical, current situations where control tools steer behavior into repeatable tracks. There are simple ways to get spontaneity back without drama. Turn off autoplay or recommendations for a set hour and take a deliberate random choice. Flip a coin, open a map blindfolded, or pick a menu item you can't pronounce. First, do schedule no algorithm pockets each week and keep a real notebook for odd ideas that would otherwise vanish. Create low-stakes spaces where mistakes are accepted. A short daily improv game with friends, a bad idea, mailbox at work, or a phone-free walk. Small, practiced acts of unpredictability rebuild the muscle for improvisation. And the reward isn't metrics, but the sudden joy of doing something purely because it felt right. 5. The consequences of control in all spheres of life. Control shows up as a quiet force in many parts of life, shaping choices without always announcing itself. In offices, for example, managers use monitoring tools that track keystrokes, app usage, and time spent on tasks. The result could be higher measured productivity, but also higher stress and less creative risk-taking. In schools, emphasis on standardized tests narrows what teachers teach, so students learn to aim at passing instead of exploring. That narrows curiosity. At home, smart devices that learn routines make daily life easier, yet they also log habits that can be used for marketing or sold to third parties. These are practical trade-offs, convenience against autonomy, efficiency against variety. Algorithms steer what people see and do with surprising force. Recommendation systems do extend attention by suggesting videos, products, or news tailored to previous behavior, and the clear benefit is faster discovery of useful items. The downside is that such tailoring narrows exposure. People end up stuck in comfortable loops and miss out on broader perspectives. Platforms optimize for engagement, which means they tend to favor emotionally strong content. That often deepens polarization and can push extreme material into prominence, even when that wasn't anyone's conscious plan. A simple example is watching one video and suddenly finding a queue of similar pics that keep you there far longer than you intended. Public safety and economic systems feel the pressure of control too, sometimes in ways that seem logical but create unfair outcomes. Predictive tools used by agencies do prioritize resources towards certain neighborhoods. This can reduce some crimes, but also reinforce older patterns by sending more officers where more reports already exist. Credit scores and loan algorithms do base decisions on past financial behavior, which is practical for lenders but can lock people out of opportunities if the historical data reflects unequal starting points. When decisions move from people to models, transparency drops. That makes it harder for someone to understand or contest why they were denied a loan or watched more closely by authorities. Control reshapes personal habits and culture in ways both subtle and blunt. People do self-censor when they know conversations are recorded, and workers modify their behavior under surveillance, which lowers spontaneity and mentorship moments that matter for learning. On the bright side, awareness of control also sparks resistance and creativity. Encrypted messaging, offline meetups, and new norms around data rights crop up as practical responses. Solutions worth trying include clearer rules about what is tracked, regular audits of automated systems, giving people easy ways to opt out or see their own data, and designing tech so control supports choice rather than replaces it. A bit of transparency and more user power can turn many control consequences from suffocating to manageable. And that's better for performance, dignity, and the occasional unexpected idea. We looked at how smart systems can act like a steering wheel, not just helping, but nudging and shaping choices. First do spot patterns in data. First do push attention where it's efficient. And sometimes first do lock people into loops that concentrate power. That's not magic or villainy. It's design and habit. Data are just breadcrumbs. Models are pattern finders, and feedback loops are the echoes that make those patterns louder over time. You probably felt some of this today. The feed that keeps showing the same thing, the anno domini that seems to know you too well, the suggestion that nudged a choice. That's the control we've been describing, subtle, everyday, fixable. We can design smarter rules, ask better questions, and spread decision-making so power isn't stuck in one dashboard. If this surprised you, or made you laugh at my GPS analogy, please share it with anyone who might be interested. Leave a comment about one small change you'd make, and subscribe if you want to learn practical ways to regain control over algorithmic influence. In the next video, we'll explore the problem of the educated but powerless as a hidden crisis of intelligent minds.